Welcome to another exciting and inviting, informative and performative episode of the Entreprenudist Podcast, a place to hear real entrepreneurs and business owners bear it all. I'm your host, life strategist and retirement planner, Randolph Love III. And if you have not heard, the third's the word. We got an attorney on the podcast today. But before we bring them up, I do want to remind you that this episode is brought to you by Shield Wolf Strongholds, a wealth growth and protection company. When it comes to estate planning, when it comes to life insurance, when it comes to employee benefits, when it comes to retirement planning, if your plan ain't Shield Wolf, your plan ain't strong. If you are a business owner that wants you and your employees to retire higher than you would have prior, or your tax is at the max and you so stressed you can't relax, visit shieldwolfstrong.com or call or text +1 904 822 4262. Now to our guest. Anthony DeRosa is a Chicago-based personal injury attorney who brings a rare combination of youthful drive and deep commitment to his clients' stories. He graduated from the University of Illinois, Chicago School of Law in 2013 and quickly distinguished himself at Schumann Legal through his meticulous attention to detail and personal investment in his clients' journeys. Anthony, welcome to the Entreprenudist Podcast.
Thank you for having me. Very excited.
Hey, man, I appreciate you for coming on, man. It's always great to talk to the It Depends Society, right?
That's right.
I'm looking forward to the first question I ask you, and you say, it depends. We'll take bets on it, how many minutes it takes us to get into that, all right?
All right.
Is there nothing that you know now that you wish you knew when you first started?
Oh boy, I think I've had a long journey, right? I kind of started out initially in the law, and over the course of, almost 10 years now, I've gone into IT sales and consulting, and then back to the law at this point now. So what I always think is life really gives you that experience kind of going through different careers to really, really shape and mold you as a personal injury attorney, kind of learning the ins and outs of everything, different clients, different businesses. It really set me up for success and kind of a different look at what's the best way to really be a personal injury attorney, right? And again, that IT background really helps me, kind of understand how to, discuss different issues with clients and, even bringing on new clients and helping to grow the firm, being IT forward. The rest of the world is going all AI, right? So kind of learning that in advance has been a huge help, and really it's kind of molded my future here.
Mm-hmm. And I imagine the IT, does it help you in gathering those first initial documents, or does it help you with getting the information that you need to the key stakeholders in the claim? How are y'all utilizing that IT forward way of thinking?
Absolutely. So that's a great question. So kind of coming into the firm, we were adapting, learning new technologies, right? So since then, we've really used a lot of AI tools to really help assist our clients, right? Streamline processes, all the way from demand writing to, drafting complaints to really speed up the process for everything across the entire firm, which allows us to be more efficient and really get our demands or, complaints on file much quicker than probably a lot of other firms out there, that are still paper-based. So it's been a huge help. And again, the key with AI though is you can't use it 100%, right? To get you 50 to 75% of the way there. Otherwise we wouldn't have any jobs, right? So again, everything's attorney review, everything is done by us and double check, but it's cut out, 10 to 30 hours a week of, things that would just be a manual process before. So it's really fast paced. It's very incredible.
Oh yeah. I like to refer to AI as a sourdough starter. Right. It definitely does the heavy lifting, but you still got to take that dough and put it in the oven and make sure that it bakes up the right way. It's not done. You don't see too many people eating sourdough starter, but you see them eating sourdough bread. Is there nothing that you know now that you wish you knew when you first started in general?
Yeah, I think I'm aging myself a little bit here, but I mean, there's a lot, right? You don't know what you don't know. So, over the course of 10 to 15 years, I think the main thing I would probably look backwards is slow down, right? Take a little bit of time because life moves super quick. So just really enjoying the time, right? And just also probably having a good mentor is, I think, very crucial, right, to future development and helping grow a firm or any business, right? So having a good mentor would have been something that if I could have had that back in the past would have definitely elevated my career quicker instead of kind of learning the hard way.
Oh yeah, mentorship is very important. You essentially are able to quantum leap into the future based off the information that they showed you, and getting that information, that mentor at the very beginning could be very crucial, right? I think it's synonymous to the Pareto principle. What you do in the first 20% of the process greatly affects the 80% of the outcome, those vital few things. And I imagine that a car accident is like that. What are some of the things, the early critical decisions that can make or break a personal injury case?
Yeah, there's a lot. One of the most important things, right, is what you're communicating to the insurance companies, right? Everybody's got a vested interest. The insurance companies are not there to help our clients, right? That's what we're here for. So it's immediately getting an attorney on the line, right? Retaining us to represent you. So all those communications can pass through us, right? So you don't say something that could potentially damage your case down the line. That's really the most crucial and most important part from the start. And again, is getting the treatment that you need, immediately, right? You want to get yourself back to feeling you were prior to the collision. And that's probably, I'd say, the second most important thing.
Oh yeah, I remember. It's a court TV judge, probably one of the most famous court TV judges, Judge Judy. And one thing that she used to do, people used to say, "Well, Your Honor, I feared for my life. I feared for my life, Your Honor." And her very next question, and when they would say that, they would say, "Well, that's the reason why I did this certain thing, this thing that might seem illegal, this thing that might seem unethical, this thing that might seem immoral. I feared for my life, Your Honor, this thing that might seem irrational." And her very next question would be, "Well, did you call the police?" and when they said no, well, you didn't fear that much. And it sounds like what you're saying is, if somebody's in a car accident, if you feel like you might be hurt, did you call a doctor?
Yeah, and did you call the police, right? That's another very important, if it's not recorded, right, it didn't happen. So most important thing is make sure you get somebody to the scene, documented by the police. So you've got a police report, so it's documented. And then, moving forward with the necessary treatment, right? There's no going backwards. After a case is settled, you got to get your maximum treatment and get yourself feeling as good as you possibly can. Because once the case settled, you can't go back, so.
Oh yeah, I've been in the insurance industry for going on 2 decades now. I started out in property casualty, wrote a lot of auto insurance policies, and I remember one time it was somebody, they came, my car was parked, they hit my car, and they graciously came up and knocked on the door and let me know that they hit my car, right? And they said, "All right, well, I'm letting you know." And I'm like, "I appreciate it, but I still have to file a report, because unless I get this report on record, who's to say that you're not going to change your mind about admitting fault 2 days from now, or 2 weeks from now, or 2 months from now?" How often do you run into those situations where somebody got into an accident and they made an agreement on the scene not to involve the police? And is that a deal killer?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head, right? We're talking about two different verticals there. One's called PD, the property damage of the vehicle, and the other part is the BI, which is known as the bodily injury, right? The injuries that you sustain. Most importantly, now you don't want to deal with those agreements, right? One, you never know if they're going to commit to what they told you at the scene, right? Two, and you want to have it documented, kind of like we referenced. You want to have the police there and a report, right? Because especially for the insurance companies, that's the main thing they're looking for. Is some sort of documentation of when did this collision occur, right? And what transpired. So, which is then going to be followed by your ER records. But the most important thing, following getting that documented by the police is getting into there within 1 to 3 days, right, into the ER or into some sort of physician. If you can't get to the ER immediately, so you can document your pain, right, and have them start working on it.
Absolutely. So what is the mindset of a modern injury lawyer? And how do you build credibility? Because you're a younger attorney, like, you know, me, I'm in the financial services and financial advising space, and I'm at that perfect age now. I just turned 40 this past December. I'm old enough to where I know what I'm talking about, but I'm young enough to where I'm not gonna die before you need to start accessing your retirement income. How do you build credibility being a younger attorney?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably several things. It's one, it's always leading with honesty, right, and the truth. I think that sometimes this industry gets a bad rep. So it's really being very clear and explaining, right, clear communication to your client of exactly what is the life of my case going to look like, right? Things to look out for, red flags. Again, discussing, you know, reminding them, come to me first. You know, with those questions, don't speak with the adjuster directly. It's the number one thing you don't want to do. You know, make sure that the file, that's what we're taking our retainer fees for, right? That's what the work is for. So it's establishing that credibility, communication with clients, right? You know, at least as much as you can, right? That's why we have a full staff and paralegals and legal assistants, but really touching base with the client and making sure that they feel comfortable and really just checking in and giving that personal touch to know that we care, right? Sometimes, you know, in life, and especially the industry, it can be really quick, you know, very fast paced, a lot going on, and you've got a million emails coming in, and you've got this platform to monitor, but it's remembering that the most important thing is speaking with your client and making sure you advise them on how to do things correctly and making sure that they're feeling better before you just go forth and send a demand letter and try to settle a case, right?
Oh yeah, and I imagine a big part of that credibility is always answering the phone. I know that can make or break your reputation in any industry, and I imagine that you and or your paralegals are always answering the phone. Is that something that's a part of your core values, or that's just something that you just learned along the way, or once you got with Schumann?
Yeah, that's great that you asked that. So I really learned that again, kind of in sales, right? Because, you know, you're trying to close deals, right? You got big things going on, and if the client can't get a hold of you, how are they going to think you're going to be the right consultant or the right person to sell this technology to? It's really that kind of transferred over when I went back into the law. But again, I try to tell everyone in my staff, it's frustrating, right? The phone's ringing off the hook all day. You got a million things to do, but pick up the phone, right? It's literally the most important thing. So yeah, I mean, I'll be all day trying to do something, and it's just the phone will be ringing off the hook. That's just how some of the days are going to be. But you know what? Extending that courtesy to the client and really hearing and listening what they have to say is really the most valuable thing. So,
oh yeah, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And I've had a unique experience of being on both sides of the claims process. I've been an independent adjuster working on the part of the insurance carriers, and I've also been a public insurance adjuster working on behalf of the insureds. So I've seen both sides. What would you say is a real world candid look on how insurance adjusters approach claims?
Oh, a loaded question, but let me give you the truth, right?
And it depends.
You've seen it a lot of the times. Yeah. What I'd say is, I think, and it depends on the tenure of the insurance adjuster, right? Sometimes, you know, a newer adjuster is going to be like, everybody's got goals and numbers on the back end, right? I'm sure. And the insurance company wants to pay out as least as they can, right? But we're going to get the maximum settlement we can for our clients, and that's what they deserve. And that's why they come to us. So it's, again, kind of, I think, comes down to the negotiations where, you know, some adjusters just don't think, well, you know, everything is resolved. There's no pain lingering, right? It's, so it's your job, right, to go through the medical records and really discuss that and say, here's a very clean course of treatment. Here's exactly what's still going on. Patient may have been discharged, but if you look at the discharge record, right, they still have lingering TBI symptoms, you know, ongoing dizziness, you know, confusion. And that's something that they didn't experience prior to this, to whatever the collision is or the collision date. So it's really kind of harping on the main points in the medical records and explaining to the adjuster, this isn't just, you know, a soft tissue injury. If I hear that one more time, right? Or if I had $1 for that, you know, or speed of impact, right? It doesn't matter how fast somebody hits you or exactly the collision point. The body can move in all sorts of different ways, right? And even the slightest movement of your head back and forth can really cause a concussion and a traumatic brain injury. So it just all depends. Now again, maybe a newer adjuster doesn't understand that, right? They're not doctors, nor are we, but we're doing this day in and day out, so you have to review in so many medical records, right? You understand it. So it's really explaining to those newer adjusters. Now, when you're getting to, I'd say a more tenured adjuster, I think they understand that, right? And claim evaluation is quite a bit easier. But again, that's the importance of having a firm that's been in practice for 30 years is all that experience across the attorneys, right? Knowing what adjusters, kind of knowing what adjusters are going to offer based on insurance companies, right? And then really the final thing is not settling a case short. We're not a settlement shop. We don't do that. There's some law firms out there that are going to advise a client, listen, take this. This is a good offer, where it might not be. And the reason being is they don't have a litigation department, or they don't have the ability to move the case forward to trial. And that is one of the number one things I see that is pretty upsetting, right? Because you have a client come back afterwards, they're like, I settled my case. Is there anything I can do? The answer is no, right? After you sign that release, the case is over. Whereas in our scenario, we would have been like, no, you still got lingering issues. Let's move forward. Let's push this case to trial.
And that's very important to know. And because somebody aligns themselves with a law firm that deals with hundreds upon thousands of these cases, you know those subtle nuances. All right, this is a new adjuster, I got to explain it a little more. Or this is a tenured seasoned adjuster. I make sure my package is well documented so I can get it to them so they can do their job. But a lot of times, by the time people get to y'all, they might have already had that first phone call with the insurance company. Is there nothing that they should know before they get on that first phone call?
Yeah, I always say this, and sometimes we'll have return clients, and the best feeling is, it's unfortunate they got another accident, but they know exactly what to do in that scenario, right? And I always say, you can discuss the property damage, the damage of the vehicle, because everybody wants to get the car back on the road, right? You got to get to work. It's all sorts of things. The most important thing, though, is discussing those injuries, because they don't know what they're saying, right? Or how they're explaining to it. And the adjuster may try to minimize it or try to catch it off guard. There's a lot that happens on the back end. So I'm not saying all insurance adjusters are bad, but right, in any industry, there's red flags that you want to look out for. So again, kind of circling back full circle is, get on the line with the attorney, right, before you speak with the insurance adjuster about anything outside of the damage of the vehicle.
And I know I have a lot of attorney friends and colleagues, and they say that the reason why attorneys make so much money is because people hate to read, right? But also, I think attorneys make so much money is because they really know how to put a narrative together. I believe that in law school, there must be a narrative course that you take, because it's always about the story. How does understanding your client's story help shape stronger outcomes when it comes to being in and out of the courtroom?
Absolutely. There's a little bit of a flair for the dramatics, right? I mean, going on a trial is a little bit like going into a play or anything like that, where, you've got 12 people over there where you need to sell again, which is why sales is so important in being an attorney as well. But a little bit of the flair for the dramatics doesn't hurt, right? Painting a picture and really explaining to them, And that kind of goes full circle to the pre-settlement versus going all the way to trial. The goal, right, is always to settle for your client. I'd say about 95% probably of cases settle before they do go into litigation. And it definitely, at least at our firm, I don't know about everybody else, but the goal is always settlement, right? We don't want to have to drag it out for our clients any longer than it needs to be. But again, there's that balance of explaining to them, don't settle your case short, right? And that happens through clear communication throughout the life of the case.
Clear communication. The highest form of compensation is communication. And I think people can see that in every aspect of life if they really look at it. Like even when you talk about when a roof gets sold and then put on, unfortunately, the person who gets paid the least is the person that drives the nail in the shingle in that hierarchy. But the person who communicated the deal from the homeowner to the company owner, and then the company owner communicates the specifics to the permitting office, to the vendors, to the laborers, the people who are communicating the most get the highest outcome. And I imagine that communication that you use as an attorney came from your background growing up in a close-knit community. How have you utilized that when you approach leadership, client care, and just overall life?
Yeah, I think that's a good reference point. I come from an Italian family, right? So it's loud, right? And there's a lot of opinions. There's a lot going on there, right? But it's kind of learning from that, and a lot of entrepreneurs in my family as well. Even my dad speaking of roofs, right? He had his own construction business on the side, right? So you kind of learn a lot of how structure and how much goes into that, contractors, subcontractors, and, the ins and outs of everything like that. But throughout my whole life, even starting back in high school, I was the class president, and then moving into, undergrad, part of student government, and then the president of my fraternity, the head of, in law school as well, student government. So it's like throughout my life, it's one of those things, you kind of either have it or you don't. I feel like you're born with it. And it's really kind of that desire to want to lead, but not lead in a way where, you're in the back. It's where you're in the front helping, pull the sleigh, I would say, right? If that makes sense. Because the best leaders are on the front lines, and they're showing by example. And that's something that's always been exciting for me, really throughout my whole life.
That's good. Because a lot of times, the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. And a lot of the things that we do were formed in their childhood. And it seems like you're utilizing that to your clients' benefit. What books should people be reading?
Oh boy. Now, would you regard around personal injury or just kind of in general?
In general.
Yeah, I actually just gave my best friend this book. It's called The Fountainhead by Ayn Rand. And I had to read that in high school, and it really, really stuck with me. It has a lot to do with altruism. It's an excellent book, and definitely kind of shows it's the balance between wanting to be a leader, but also sometimes knowing when you need to take a step back and kind of understanding how politics work to help advance yourself in your career and in life. And it's a fine balance, right? It's a fine line, and it's just an excellent book that I would recommend that everyone reads. It's my favorite.
Is it nonfiction or fiction?
It's fiction. Yeah.
Okay, got it. What's your personal definition of success?
Personal definition of success. Honestly, at this point, I have a lot of team members, right? A lot of people below me, and that comes with a lot of people's lives, and you feel that, or I do at least, you feel that responsibility. So I would say is making sure that my staff is happy, right? And seeing them have the ability to really grow and develop and, move into different positions. That honestly is the best thing for me for success, because that shows everything that I've taken over my entire life. I'm able to apply that, lead by example, and kind of give that, that drive to other people on my team, which then in turn, as we've been growing, allows me to delegate, right? And take some of that work off. To me, that's the best form of success.
Oh yeah. Elevate and delegate.
Yeah.
Definitely. All right.
I'm taking that from you. Elevate and delegate.
You go ahead. I got that from Gino Wickman. He has a book called Traction. That's a good book. He and a lot of business owners use it. He calls it EOS, the Entrepreneur Operating System. The Entrepreneur Operating System. One last question for you, Anthony. Is there not a question that I did not ask you that I should have?
As soon as we end this, I'm going to think of it, right? I think for for 30 minutes we covered a large gambit, kind of a 10,000 feet of personal injury and being an entrepreneur. And again, my one thing to everybody would be don't give up, right? Always aim higher, always shoot for more. You're going to fail. You might fail a million times, right? And it could be a million and one. That's where you break out, or that you have the success. So just don't give up, and, always have a mentor, and always be reading books. Anything you can do, the more you can educate yourself will set you apart of the rest. Because I think you said it earlier, people don't want to read, and reading's really what's going to elevate you. So.
Oh yeah, Og Mandino, author of The Greatest Salesman in the World, says it's better to aim your spear at the moon and to strike only an eagle than to aim your spear at an eagle and to strike only a rock. And it seems like you're aiming at the moon over there when you're helping your clients. One more time, please let everybody know who you are, what do you do, and how they can get in touch.
Absolutely. My name is Anthony DeRosa, personal injury attorney at Schumann Legal. Reach out to me at 312-422-0700. Again, that's 312-422-0700, and ask for Anthony.
Thank you so much for the information you shared, Anthony. And I know we just grazed. You just seen the iceberg. You gave us 30,000 feet over, but I'm pretty sure if people reach out to you, you can give them more details. And this has been another exciting and informative episode of the Entreprenudist Podcast, a place to hear real entrepreneurs and business owners bear it all. I am your host, life strategist and retirement planner, Randolph Love III. And until next time, don't play with it. Stay with it until you make pay with it. This is the Entreprenudist Podcast, signing off.